economic transformation is concerned. Joining us for that discussion now is John Warugembe, the Executive Director at the Federation for SMEs. Do I get that right, or it's MSMEs?
The Federation for SMEs, but we also take the micro.
The micro. Well. So micro, small and medium enterprises.
Correct.
Okay, just help us understand it a little bit better than the acronym.
So micro business. So micro business are those that employ less than 5 people with a turnover of less than 10 million. That is the bulk of businesses in this country.
The bulk are micro.
The bulk are micro. They're run by women. They're run by youth.
Okay.
They are startups. And then we have small businesses that have up to 50 people and have a turnover of up to 100 million annually. Yeah. And then you have medium-sized businesses that have not more than 100 people and have a turnover of 360 million or more.
Or more.
Yes.
But below 500.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So this is the definition that we use. We've used it for a while. It might need updating, but that's what we have at the moment, and that's what we use.
And then there are those that I suppose, according to what you've just said, the ones that could be falling below micro. They don't have, they employ one person.
No, micro. When you say micro, we say below. Below. So anyone, even if you employ one person, only,
you're below. You're okay.
We still call you micro.
Micro. Okay, so the majority are micro.
The majority are micro, about 93%.
93% of the private sector in Uganda.
Yes.
That's a damning assessment.
It's what it is.
It's a reality.
It's a reality, and I think we all need to work hard to ensure that we are able to see more enterprises scale. We are able to see less enterprises collapsing after 1 to 2 years.
That's right.
You know? So as a federation, I think this is something that we take very seriously. How do we help young people who are starting out?
You'll be telling us a little bit more about how you help businesses scale, but most importantly, how you position those that want to become better in the conduct of business can be done. But let's first talk about the SME Day, which was yesterday, as gazetted by the United Nations General Assembly. Tell us about the history of this particular day and how the commemoration of this particular day has helped improve business, for example.
Okay, so a lot of entities pushed that the UN designates a special MSME Day. Some of these include the International Organization, some include UNCTAD, some include the World Union of SMEs, to which the Federation belongs, and others. They felt that SMEs play a very critical and pivotal role in development, and that the UN ought to recognize them, more so in the attainment of the Sustainable Development Goals. So in 2017, government, rather the United Nations General Assembly designated the 27th of June as the International MSME Day, a day that the world should use to celebrate the contribution of MSMEs in general. And yesterday was the International MSME Day for this year. It was celebrated under a theme that emphasized rebuilding, building back better, and SMEs being able to contribute to the attainment of the Sustainable Development Goals. Okay. And I think this is, as a federation, this is completely consistent with what our position has been with regard to supporting small businesses, especially in these difficult times.
Yeah, I'm glad you talk about the difficult times and what it's testing the resilience of many of these micro and small enterprises. But is there concerted effort, both from the private sector itself and the government? Is there a harmony in ensuring that, first and foremost, many that found themselves running into troubled waters are helped to get back to business, but most importantly, ensuring that there is resilience to help businesses be able to go on, even if the times are hard. I was having a conversation a while back with a friend who told me that sometimes in business, it's not about, you could take a year without making significant profits. Correct. But when the mission is to survive, now, how is the survival mechanism rolling out right now?
Okay, so as you know, the first lockdown was imposed on 20th March in the year 2020. It was really difficult.
Yeah.
And I would say that these past 3 years have been very testing for MSMEs. We've conducted various assessments that have confirmed the gravity of this situation. Businesses struggling with shortfalls in revenue, businesses struggling with diminished demand, businesses struggling with having to deal with liquidity constraints, having to lay off staff, some businesses having to close.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, as a federation, we decided to be at the forefront of supporting government to come up with measures that are effective in handling these issues. And through our efforts, government allocated money to UDB initially. You know, so if you look at the previous 3 budgets, you see there's a theme around supporting MSMEs, there's a theme around supporting businesses to recover. This has been us and other actors pushing to say, government, let's do something to help MSMEs. And I would like to say that government has tried within its limited resources. They allocated money to UDB the first time after the second lockdown. Were able to roll out the Small Business Recovery Fund of close to 200 billion. You've seen money being allocated to the Microfinance Support Center to support the recovery of SMEs. You've seen money being allocated to about 27 billion being allocated for SACCOs. You've seen some money being put under the Ghana Development Corporation to support bigger businesses, especially in agro-processing, through equity investments or debt or whatever, or a mixture of the two. So government has tried to be as innovative as it could be. My only concern is that they've really predominantly focused on pumping in money. I think they need to also leverage other policy instruments to ensure that businesses are supported.
Could that be responsible for the liquidity constraints that you talk about?
No, the liquidity constraints, no, I think government put these resources primarily to address that.
To address that problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, to address that problem. So they've I think, attempted to do all they can. They can definitely do more, but you know, we also appreciate the constraints that they have to deal with.
Okay, how about interest rates? Recently, the Deputy Governor for the Bank of Uganda, Dr. AT NTV, spoke about the fact that the economy would, the threat of tanking is there, and that aspects like inflation could peak in the next quarter of the financial year. That is something that would send markets, you know, a little bit rippling, because it causes discomfort. I don't know how you received that particular message, including the message that was in the budget as read by the Finance Minister. Was there a sense of, were you confident, so to speak, that there was a clear path that the government is taking
no one
addressing
can be
that
confident
issue?
in such uncertain times. As you know, we are dealing with inflation, we are dealing with high commodity prices, and this is having a very negative impact on small businesses. It's raising their cost of business, it's making consumers less willing to spend on non-essential items.
Affecting demand.
And it affects demand. You know, so all these things combined, considering that businesses had to deal with lockdowns and so on, does not augur well for the economy. Now, I would like to say that this is not a local issue, really. It's imported inflation.
Yeah.
If you look at what's happening in the US, if you look at what's happening in the UK, in Sweden, basically the Eurozone area and other parts of the world. In fact, if you look at some economies like Sri Lanka, they're in very, very bad shape. Yeah. So I think what we can do is to try to stabilize the patient, as they say, as we wait for conditions, as we wait for conditions to improve.
Or refer them to Nairobi.
So as I think the central bank has taken the step of raising the central bank rate by 1 percentage point. I think the idea is to curb inflation. Yeah. But you know, if that doesn't help, and you keep raising the CBR, then there's also a risk that you can push the economy into a recession. So I think the central bank has to walk a very tight rope to ensure that on one hand they are able to curb inflation, but on the other hand they are able to leave room for the economy to thrive.
That's right. It is a little bit of a ping pong in ensuring restrictive monetary policy rollout. But of course, what we do know is that the gentlemen at the Bank of Uganda are pretty competent to be able to take the economy forward. Now, there's been concern within the private sector about ethics and standards in the conduct of business. We don't seem to see a clear path on pricing. It's not something we expect, for example, that there will be price caps, because the nature of the economy and how it is run, the president has effectively communicated this. We are in a very free market economy that is run on the full extent of capitalism, the way it comes. And however, I don't know whether in liaison with CASITA, that is the Kampala City Traders Association, and any other sector players, there is an attempt to ensure the consumers are taken care of from the exploitation that we see. Some prices of commodities are way out of touch, not necessarily because of the imported inflation, but because some traders assume, well, I'm the one who has the product, so I can put it at any price.
Okay, so in a market-based economy, as you know, I mean, we are not the.
It's a difficult one, but there must be some.
We are not the promoters of the market-based economy, but even the founders seem to intervene more than us in their own economies. If you look at the financial crisis and you look at what the US did, if you look at what different economies are doing to pop up their economies, you can see that there's no country except Uganda that runs a purely capitalistic kind of economy.
Yeah.
So for us, we would like to see, and capitalism doesn't mean that government absconds its regulatory role. Government must be active, because every time you have free players interacting, it means there has to be an umpire.
There has to be an umpire.
But I think that is something that we want to see government do more. The way it does in the communication space very effectively is what it should do across the economy. And I'm glad that during the budget reading, the minister highlighted that they are bringing one of the priorities for this year is the competition bill. Because competition, such a bill, but I've not looked at it, I'd be happy to take time and review it, would ensure that there's fair play, both amongst the players and between the players and the consumers. Because the players can be unfair to each other. It's like in a football match, you know, where you bring, they say it's for under 18s, and then you bring a 45-year-old to play in that game. The umpire said, no, this person does not qualify.
Doesn't meet the...
And then the issue of businesses engaging in unscrupulous business practices, overcharging, you know, because they feel they can get away with it. This is also something that can be managed by the mechanisms within such a bill to ensure that you justify your price. You don't just wake up because you feel there are shortages to engage in hoarding and things of the sort in order to manipulate.
What is the current enforcement mechanism? Are you part of it?
No, there's no enforcement mechanism to do with price. The only enforcement mechanism that exists is to do with quality.
Quality.
Yes. And then the normal licensing regime, if you have a trading license, and if you have any other license, depending on the nature of business that you do, then you're good to go. What you charge is really up to you. The assumption is that if you charge too high, people won't buy. But in cases of shortages, I think that kind of theory may not hold, as we saw during the other time when we had a bit of a fuel crunch. Yes.
To bring this home, and I must insist on this particular issue. At the end of the day, somebody might think it's wayward, but the Federation of Small and Medium Enterprises, in liaison with perhaps the Uganda Chamber of Commerce, CASITA, and all these other players, must have a catalogue.
Okay.
So that there is an idea that soap, for example, at this particular moment is at this particular price. There must be some
the
way.
Price changes
it might not
based
necessarily
on market
mean
dynamics, but I think maybe what we can do is what I would call self-regulation.
Self-regulation.
We in the private sector, we don't need to wait for government to come running after us with a stick.
And what is that? How are you doing that?
Is what I want to know. We are not doing anything, and I think we should.
You see?
I don't want to come here and say we are doing something when we are not.
You should be doing something about that.
I think we should be doing something about it. We must engage in self-regulation. We must work together with other business associations to ensure that our members adopt ethical pricing. And it's not just about pricing. It's also about selling counterfeit products. Because you can sell a counterfeit product that the consumer likes. You know, but why should you promote substandard counterfeit products and engage in all kinds of dishonest practices? Okay. So I think it's our duty as the associations of businesses.
I'll be following up on that
to
support
see these businesses,
to see what you roll out.
Ethical.
Yeah,
and the Federation is in discussions, for instance, with the Institute of Corporate Governance to ensure that we improve governance practices within SMEs. This is another issue.
It's another issue.
It's another issue. So we, as a Federation, want to ensure that we establish as many partnerships as possible with like-minded actors that can help us to improve the way we run business. Yes.
You speak about governance practices and the fact that you're engaging other sector holders to help improve what you're doing within your circles. It speaks to formalizing businesses. There's been a lot of talk. It has now become more like a broken record where we say Ugandan businesses operate laissez-faire. You don't know who owns what and at what extent, what stake is in for the other. People simply run as the day goes. What is the framework like right now within your organization, the Federation, and other players to ensure that you go and have many of these players? Because at 93% micro businesses in the country, it means we must pay closer attention to who is doing what business, what scale, and where. Are they the URSB? It should be on board, but to what extent? Yeah.
So business formalization is very pertinent. The only issue is that we don't agree what it means.
We all don't agree what it means.
We don't agree. Does business formalization means you must register with URSB? What of that business that is operating in Masaka? They are there, they have a physical place of abode, they pay their license. Because once you pay your license, it means the local government is acknowledging you. No? So why don't we say we bundle? Because what businesses don't want is to waste their time, register with so-and-so, register with so. Let your RSB talk to the councils so that as you get an annual license, you automatically also get registered. Let us not have parallel routes, see? So if I pay my license, I'm automatically registered. I get a registration number, I get a TIN number, I get my at once.
At once. So it doesn't get me, you have to...
But here, you first go to your and get a TIN number before you register. Why you say you are the same government? Coordinate. Me, I just want to interface with one person so that I go back and concentrate on running my business. So I think government also has a role to play in putting its house in order. You know, too many licenses, too many obligations on businesses does not encourage businesses to formalize. Because the reason I set up my business, because I have something I want to work on, not to waste time running after you guys in offices and asking for this license, this permit, and things of the sort.
Okay.
Yes, and that's why we talk about a conducive business
environment. Now, women are particularly affected when it comes to challenging business environment. During COVID, many of them were driven out, and we all understand and know just how much women are responsible for the everyday livelihoods of the Ugandans. The mom and pop shops, where you see a woman doing things like roasting maize, selling tomatoes and onions at a nearby kiosk. Those ones were heavily affected. What is FSME's framework in helping these women?
Well, we have a women-led MSMEs platform through which we are supporting women. Okay. Through mentorship, through skilling.
Are they being reached?
We're reaching them. The Federation is the Federation is a mass organization.
It's a mass organization.
Mass organization means we reach people at the grassroots. Because those are people we represent. We must be able to reach them. We must be a conduit between service providers and them. And we are doing our utmost. There's a lot to be done, definitely, and I can't say we have reached perfection in this respect. But I think given the resources that we have, we are basically we are discharging our duties very well.
Okay.
So we are making sure that women are, because the challenge is most of the people running micro businesses are women. We want women to run more growth-oriented enterprises. We want them to be more ambitious, more aspirational. We want to ensure that the barriers that are put there to constrain women are removed. The care burdens that limit the time that they devote towards their businesses are limited. And as a federation, we believe this is extremely important if we are to grow the SME ecosystem in this country. Yes.
Okay. Recently, just over 2 weeks ago, there was a delegation that went to the DRC capital, Kinshasa, to hammer out the final modalities of how we are going to attack, so to speak, the Democratic Republic of Congo, the massive market potential that it has with regard to its joining of the East African community. Uganda has already made inroads where we are making roads to ensure that perhaps business later on is pretty smooth. Where are we in terms of the focus? What have you prepared for the various stakeholders within your sect or the MSME area?
So the Federation of SMEs has prioritized the internationalization of SMEs because the Ugandan market is limited. There's a limit to which you can sell to your brothers, your sisters, your hobbies. At some point, the market gets exhausted. So we must look outside. And we have prioritized the African Continental Free Trade Area. With primarily through awareness raising, through trainings and business linkages. And also trying to undertake targeted market intelligence to tell our SMEs that they need this. Because you may be taking things to DRC, but the wrong thing. You can't just take what you like, that I'm taking matoke to DRC. Are you sure they eat matoke?
Are you sure they eat matoke?
Yes. Take what they want. If in Togo they eat leather, take leather. For you may think leather is good for their shoes, but they eat it. Take what they want, because that's what the market wants.
That's what the market wants.
So we are trying to address some of those issues, you know, a bit of market intelligence, market linkages. How do you meet someone? Because you're not going to be on Facebook and say, well, Facebook is good, but how do you build trust with these individuals? And that's where we come in to ensure that you're able to find a partner on the other side, to ensure that you're able to access trade financing, to ensure that all these barriers that have traditionally inhibited Ugandans from selling beyond our borders are addressed.
Let's do some kind of insider trading here, where the average Ugandan who is watching the morning show right now could be confused and perhaps ignorant about the kind of market opportunities that are in the Democratic Republic of Congo. They do not know what products are mainly wanted in the Democratic Republic of Congo. You have worked with many traders who are applying routes within or linkages, Goma, all these places we hear about. Just speak to them.
Well,
what is selling in the Democratic Republic of Congo?
The DRC is a good market. It's a big market of over 94 million people.
Yeah.
You know? So you're basically looking at close to 3 times the Ugandans in terms of market.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it's a good market. Secondly, it's a well-resourced market. It has a lot of minerals, a lot of rare earth minerals and so on, timber and stuff. It has a lot of land and has a lot of potential for agriculture. But it also has some downsides, you know. There's the issue of security.
Security is
in the East. There's the issue of language. They speak French. You know, so it means
a bit of Swahili.
No, in the East mainly.
In the East mainly.
Yeah, it's mainly Goma and these other eastern areas. But as you go inwards, it's pretty much French.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of the language barrier. There's also a bit of distrust. You know, they're also not very comfortable with foreigners. You know, so those are
Ugandans in particular, or foreigners?
Well,
they deal with so many foreigners.
That's true, but they've, you know, they recently, as a result of the recent security issues, you know that in Goma you had demonstrations against Rwandese and Ugandans.
Okay.
So these make life a bit difficult, but it's a great market.
It's a huge market.
And Ugandans need to find ways of taking advantage. If you can't go to Kinshasa straight away, you start through engaging in cross-border trade.
Are they eating a lot of eggs and chicken?
So so what you have in that economy is that you have very sophisticated businesses and then you have a lot of SMEs, just like here.
Just like.
So it means that there's a lot of potential for small and medium-sized businesses. And Ugandans must also appreciate, sometimes you can go and set up shop the other side as an investor and benefit from tax holidays. Because if you're based here, every time you take your goods, you have to go through all kinds of barriers. If you're based there, they treat you as an investor. They'll give you land, they'll give you, I don't know, 90-year tax holiday or whatever. So,
all right. Yeah. No doubt. John Walgembe, the Executive Director of Federation for SMEs, speaking to us on how the government is helping, but most importantly, how SMEs within the country are surviving to ensure that they stay in business to take the economy forward. I'll be making inroads with the FSME and of course share some of the information regarding what platforms you can be able to access to know exactly what kind of business opportunities lie in the lands, including DRC and South Sudan. That's it for this segment of Morning at NTV. Glad you're still with us, but please do stay because a lot more is still coming up.